So, hello, welcome to Soul Talk Podcast, and today I'm with Natasha John, which is such a lovely name. I don't say that nicely in my accent, John. I say it in a Punjabi way. Natasha John.
Yeah.
John. That's it, John. So we actually randomly met only a few weeks ago, didn't we?
Properly, yeah.
Yeah, we sort of like had been passing each other, and I just knew I needed to podcast you and ask you some questions, so I just took a leave, didn't I? And now we're here. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into what we really wanted to talk about on the podcast?
A little bit about myself.
Yeah.
When I want to be, I can be a very loud person.
Okay.
I love stating. I am very much, I'll say what I want to say person. I don't think twice about doing it.
Have you got no filter?
No filter.
No. Okay.
It's a blessing, but it's a curse at the same time.
I'm not going to have to censor this video in any way.
I don't know. Let's hope not. I also have a massive interest in reptiles, and I study it in my free time. I do my own research, and I own about 4 reptiles.
Do you? Yeah. What do you own? Because we've just talked about this just before we started the podcast, and I was like, what?
I own 2 snakes and 2 geckos.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So geckos don't freak me out, really. I actually think they're quite cute. I mean, I wouldn't have one myself, to be honest, but I think they're actually cute. Snakes, I've just heard a couple of horror stories, that's all, but that's probably just the stories I've heard.
Just fear. They're feeding into your fear, that's all. But once you actually hold them and meet them, it's like, oh, they're not bad at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what are they called?
We've got Medusa.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't even surprise me. Medusa's such a sick name. Is that for the snake?
Yeah, these are my snakes. And then I've got Echo and Enzo, my geckos. I love them to bits. They're my little babies.
Oh, that's so cool. So what got you into reptiles?
I've always been into them since I was little. Especially when you go abroad and they'll like bring out iguanas.
Yeah.
I remember first holding an iguana and I'm like, this is what I want. I want to do this. This is exactly what I want to do.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, so it took about 2 years of studying and understanding the biology of a gecko. And then I got one and I was like, okay, I want more now. So I spent about up to 2 years researching before I actually buy geckos or snakes. And I just take my time out of my day to educate people about it as well.
Right. Oh, that's so cool. Is there anything you'd want to share today about reptiles? Because we were talking about earlier how there's a couple of misconceptions in there of reptiles, because they're sort of seen as like the scary breed of animals, because I think it's more to do with sort of the colour, and they're not like very cute things that like kittens and dogs are.
It's like the colour of them, and it's also like, because if you look at movies and cartoons, a lot of villains are people with like snakes or snakes itself.
Yeah.
So growing up, people think, oh, that's scary, I don't want to hear them. But in all reality, if you look at a snake and you understand why it's acting kind of defensive, it's because they're scared of you. That's all it is. They're just trying to feel more secure.
Like any other animal, and they all have their traits of when they're feeling like they're being predated or
that's it. That's it really. It's just they're more scared of you than we're scared of it. That's what I say about any creature. So yeah, that's my little interest.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. So how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 18.
No way! Oh my gosh, you're so much younger than I thought you were.
Really?
Yeah, I thought you was like early 20s.
Everyone thinks that.
Yeah, I think because you just come across as like very mature. I would not have thought you were only 18.
Everyone thinks that, and everyone says that.
Wow, because I feel like there's a lot of wisdom, and you've already experienced a lot for 18. Does that feel the same to you? That's what I pick up. So could you just share with us what your sort of ethnicity is, because that's what we're going to really dive into today.
So I'm mixed race. I'm half Pakistani and I'm half English. It's fun and it's a quirky combination. And I love telling people I'm that.
And which side of the family is Pakistani and which one's
English? My dad is Pakistani family. My mum's English family.
Okay. So, and how did your parents meet, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, a taxi place.
Oh, really?
My mum and dad used to work in a taxi place, and that's how we met.
Oh, so they both worked in the same place?
Yeah.
Right.
I'd just say, what a romantic story.
I know. I was expecting it to be way more juicier than that.
No. Oh my gosh.
And so this sort of was what intrigued me about you, because you definitely have your own sense of fashion, individuality, and I would say the individuality is a little different from what I know is accepted like in a Pakistani culture, and so I was really intrigued to hear about it. And you had both negative and positive things to talk about today.
Yeah.
So let's start from the very beginning, and dive into like upbringing, childhood. Like, I know there's a lot that you want to talk about, so let's go.
Where do I actually start?
Yeah.
Growing up, when I was really young, I actually didn't know the difference between halal and haram foods.
Okay.
And back in my primary school, they'd asked me before they made everything halal. They were like, "Are you halal or are you haram?" And I just be like, "What's that? What's that?"
Oh wow, so you didn't actually know like the terms.
I didn't fully understand it, yeah. And I used to be called half caste all the time, and I still didn't understand that. I was just like, "I'm Tasha, what do you mean I'm not half caste?"
Yeah.
And then I started realising that, they mean my ethnicity and my religion. And as I was growing up, a lot of expectations came as well. Some of my aunties, they were more like, "Are you going to do this when you're older? Are you going to marry a Pakistani boy when you're older?" I mean, I'm like 7. I'm more interested in My Little Ponies at the time.
Yeah. Wow, this is at the age of 7.
I'd get asked all sorts, like, "Oh, when you grow up, what are you doing? Like, are you going to Muslim or are you going to be more on the English side?" I didn't know. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I found it really hard growing up in primary and high school because I was too Asian for the white kids and I was too white for the Asian kids. So I just kind of sat alone for the majority of the high school, except for one friend who was just there with me all by my side. So I found that really hard as well because I just couldn't make friends with people. And also because I was a little bit on the stranger side, I had very weird interests like reptiles and all that. So,
you know, which isn't weird as such. It's just different to what other people sort of society is like, margins of stuff.
It's very different, and a lot of people are scared of difference.
Yeah.
And that's what's made me kind of grow up to be like, no, I'm being this person. I'm not thinking I'm going to be, I'm not going to be moulded into someone else.
Yeah.
I'm who I am, and that's who I'm going to be. So, yeah.
So at primary school, because that's quite early on, having sort of questions of where your future's going, because like you said, like you're into like playing with like My Little Pony and stuff. You know, that's the innocence of your childhood, and you're just enjoying being a child. Where did you feel like things got more serious in terms of like your future being sort of molded?
I'd say when I was about going into high school, I found that quite difficult.
Would you say when you became a teen, or
like,
is it?
Year
was it
6,
just, okay.
Yeah, becoming a teen. It's because some of my cousins would ask me questions like, "Would you ever do this? Would you ever do that? What are you going to do? Are you actually Muslim or are you? I don't know."
Right.
And I was just like, "Listen, I'm trying to figure out who I am myself. I don't have all the answers." And some of my cousins expected me to be very much like them when I'm nothing like them because I was raised in 2 different cultures.
Yeah, tell us about that then. So should we talk about one culture and then the other, and then maybe look at how you felt like they both either intertwined or clashed with each other?
Yeah, so on my own side we celebrate Easter and Christmas and all that, and on my dad's side we celebrate Eid. And growing up, I get kids from my primary school who be like, "You can't celebrate Christmas because you're Muslim." And I was, again, at that time, I didn't even fully understand the concept of religion. So I was just like, what? It blew my mind a bit. And I remember feeling a bit down about it because I just didn't know who I were. And it's just like all over the place. I was so overwhelmed by it all. Like, am I Muslim? What am I exactly? And then it would have some kids who would be like, oh, that's cool, you get to celebrate everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have some people who were just like, you can't do this if you celebrate.
By it.
Yeah, like you can't celebrate Eid if you celebrate Christmas.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, I can.
Yeah. And well, you did. So it was a possibility, wasn't it?
I still do to this day. Like.
It was so weird because this was one of the first conversations we had, because I think I mentioned something about how people always found it strange that my family celebrated Christmas, because Natasha is half Pakistani, half English, but I'm actually full Pakistani, yet that was something that we had in common. And I think that was merely because my mum's side of the family were all born here and were more or less brought up with a British lifestyle. And so we were always trying to encouraged definitely by like my granddad especially, to embrace all cultures and religions. So that was the same, like we always celebrated. We didn't really celebrate Easter, to be honest. I think that's where we were like, oh no, we're just like, that's too many traditions now, because we had 2 Eids and a Christmas, and we were like, that's probably enough with everyone's birthdays as well, because we're a big family. But it was really interesting because I've never really met anyone else who celebrated both, and I love Christmas. I love Eid as well, but I love them both as equally as much. Like I feel like in a way blessed that I get to celebrate the magic of Christmas a little bit.
Exactly.
But I think it goes with like, well, do you believe in this and this then if you celebrate Christmas? For us, it was more sort of lifestyle of embracing where we lived. But what did you feel like it was for you?
That's kind of it as well. It's the same as you, really. But at the same time, it's like I was more closer to my mum's side growing up than I were with my dad's side. But now as I've gotten older, I'm actually getting more closer to my dad's side.
Okay.
And I'm learning everything a lot more about their religion. Because as I was growing up, you know how kids are, they will tell all sorts of tales to me. Like, oh, you can't like the colour red because it associates with the devil and all this, that and the other. And that's one thing that put me off religion completely, because I'm not religious at all.
So do you not follow a religion at all then? Okay.
Not at all, but I'll do Eid for my family on my dad's side, so just because it's good to see him as well, isn't it? It's very good to talk to him. And Christmas for my mum's side, just to be with my family, like same with my dad. But I don't follow any religion because of just how a lot of people used to badger me about, oh, are you going to be Muslim? Are you Christian? What are you? And it just made me think, why should a religion define who I am?
Yeah. And so, growing up, if you was to take away sort of everyone's the outside opinion of people, because what it sounds like to me there is everyone was so badly needed to categorize you. And I feel like this has happened with myself as well, is that we really frustrate people when they can't put you in a box because they don't know how to, it's almost like they don't know what to do with that or how to be around you, even though, well, there isn't any need to know that information anyway. I don't know why people push for it, but if you was to take away all that outside stuff, who did you feel like you were growing up? Like what were your like personality traits? What was like actually you, if you was to eliminate the fact that people wanted to put a religion label on you?
But I'm still the same as I was as a kid, but I was very bouncy, very loud and very energetic. But when it came to new places and new people, I was just very, very quiet and very shy. But then as soon as I've met them for a couple of minutes, that's it. I'm bonkers, basically. And I love that about myself, because as I've gone older, I've kind of become more comfortable with who I am. And I had quite a lot of anxiety growing up. I was just an anxiety-riddled kid, but then I just started getting out of it. I'm growing out of it now to this day. Like, I wouldn't have done this podcast today if I was still as bad as I were.
Right.
So,
there's so much like unfolding there, isn't there? I think what I want to do is just sort of go back and have a look at the upbringing, and then we'll get to what may have affected your mental health there. But what were mum and dad like during your upbringing? Was there any sort of push from one of Would you call it religion or culture?
I'd say it's culture.
Yeah, because, and we'll come to that in a minute, because that is like, there's a whole podcast on its own, that, isn't it? But how did you felt like your upbringing in your own like household was? Was there any confusion between like what you were you pushed to be one side more than the other?
Yeah, well, when I was younger, my dad wasn't around much because he was in Pakistan looking after my grandma, his mum. So it would be quite rare when I saw him, so I kind of stuck to my mum's side a lot.
Okay.
And then the days that I do see my cousins on my dad's side, I felt quite uncomfortable because it was just like a whole new thing for me at that time. I was just like, what? I've got to act different in a way, so that way they won't judge me, because back then when you're kids you judge people, aren't you? When you're kids you judge anything.
Yeah.
And I'd also, I probably like around when I was 10, 11ish, I'd cover myself up before going to my cousin's house. But that's mainly just for the respect of my aunties and uncles. I would do that for them. But I'd never cover my hair. That's one thing I'll never do, because I love my hair and I think that's how
it's part of you.
It's my characteristic as well, But it wasn't only that, but when my dad was around and he did come to England, I kind of felt strange. I was like, oh, what do you mean, like, there's Eid? And that, because when I was little, I didn't fully understand Eid. I just thought, oh, we've got to have family's house and eat food.
Yeah.
But then when he told me, oh, you just gotta dress nice and you talk to your family, and it was really hard talking to my family because of language barriers.
Yeah.
Because I only understand the basics of Urdu and I don't speak it myself.
Okay. And I think it's one of those, it's very actually, because I'm not completely fluent, I can probably understand more than I can speak, mainly because I have such a broad accent. I just sound ridiculous speaking Punjabi, but I try. But I think my brother spent a lot of time in Pakistan, and he said that the more you're around it, the more you naturally pick it up. But, you know, when you're not around it a lot and you mainly have, you know, English speaking in your household, that's what you know.
Yeah, so when I'd go to my cousin's house and their mums would speak Urdu or Punjabi, I wouldn't have a clue what they were saying, and I felt really bad for it.
Yeah.
Because they were just trying to have a conversation with me, and that made me really shy. I wouldn't speak to them at all. I would kind of avoid speaking to them, even saying hi. I would just hide behind my mum, and I'm like, you talk, I don't want to talk, because she's speaking to me and I don't understand her. Or I'd get my cousins to translate, which I still do to this day. Like, if I struggle to pick it up, because you know how we speak fluent English and we speak quite quickly.
Yeah.
They speak really quickly in Urdu, so I can't pick it up.
That's
some of the times.
And so sometimes you're not just handling the actual new language, it can be a dialect depending on where they're from as well. Just like we have different dialects for different areas. So it can be like quite hard to pick up. Yeah. And so you did mention there that when your dad comes over, so does your dad actually live in Pakistan?
He doesn't anymore. He lives with us.
So he used to.
He used to just mainly live in Pakistan when I was younger.
Right. Oh wow. Okay.
As my grandma, she's very stuck in her old ways. I don't want to come to England. I don't want to live in England. My family are there in Pakistan who have died there. I want to die there. So she's very like that. So my dad went over to look after her and just be there for her so she's not alone.
Right. Okay.
But then as we've grown up, he's moved here because he's missed quite a part of my elder sister and brother's upbringing, as well as mine in a little bit. Not as much as, like I said, my sisters and brothers, but I think he's realised I've missed too much of their childhood.
And it's a long way, isn't it? You know, and I think for your grandma, it's quite it's interesting that, because most of my grandparents, one of them passed away when I was born, but the rest of them have actually all come here.
Really?
But I don't know if it's actually, I know for my granddad, definitely his own choice. Like, he was very open. He was born in a time where there wasn't really a huge partition of India and Pakistan, and so we had a very broad upbringing, which I think followed along our family and opened our family up to what it has always been, because we've always been known as a very like open family. But you know, at the same time can sort of understand why you'd want to stay where you were born. Because like for me, I was born in England. England is home. It always will be. It doesn't matter where I move. I'll always sort of feel home here. Do you know what I mean? A little bit. So I can understand wanting to stay at home.
And I think it's not only that, but I think she gets lonely when she's here. Like, she's got us all, but she likes doing her own thing. She likes going out and about. I actually went to Pakistan this year in February for 2 weddings. And I just woke up one morning and she's just going out. She's just walking around, doing a lap around the house, coming back in.
A little bit of gossip here and there. I know, it's terrible for it in the villages.
When she's here, she's just more sat down, not hardly doing anything.
It's not the same community for her because that's what she's used to. My dad's mum's definitely like the same, where I would say she's definitely more lonely here in this country. It sometimes confuses me why she doesn't choose to stay in Pakistan, because the life she would have there in terms of like community and the people she'd have around her, because you know, not a lot of the women, especially in our side of family, work, and so they've got the time, you know, to be around and stuff, whereas it's very hustle bustle here, and so she does definitely is much more lonelier here.
But I feel like she just doesn't know what to do with herself when she's here. She'll cook and clean, but that's it. She just sits down. Whilst in Pakistan, she'll just go about her day. She'll go to the villages, buy fruit and everything, and just come back like, oh, do you want pomegranate? Here you go. But she can't really do that here. So I think that's another reason why she doesn't like it.
So, God, I've got like 50 billion questions thinking in my brain right now. So what would you describe your dad as? Like, in terms of him being Pakistani, does it come with any sort of cultural aspects or anything? I want to speak about this because I think it's very different. And not every Pakistani person or mixed race person I've spoken to as Pakistani culture in there, everyone's really different. And I think there's definitely a pattern of either mum's the strict one or dad's the strict one, or dad's the cool one and mum's the strict one. There's never seems to be, in a rare case, both are really strict or both are like radically open, but other than that, it tends to be like a bit of an imbalance. So like I definitely know on my part, like my dad was born in Pakistan, my mum was born here. My mum's been brought up to sort of embrace all cultures and religions, whereas my dad's been taught like, no, Pakistani culture is the only culture. Islam is the only religion. And so there was a very big contrast of upbringing. Did you feel anything
not
like
really,
that?
No. My dad's he's very down to earth with things. He doesn't mind what I do or anything like that, as long as I'm happy and I'm safe. Because he's not a massively religious person, you know what I mean? He's just, I don't know how to explain it. He's just very chilled out, but he's also quite a hard worker as well. He's been working quite a lot when he was younger, and now he started working again. At my cousin's takeaway, actually, doing just odd deliveries here and there. But yeah, he doesn't mind what I wear. He doesn't have an opinion on it, really.
So if you used to just go out in like a short skirt and stuff, he would not have anything to say about it?
Well, personally, I hate short skirts, but
that's probably the first thing that comes to me. And so,
but if I were wearing a skirt or a vest top, if it were hot, you won't care.
Oh my God, that's madness. My dad's like the polar opposite of that. Literally the opposite. Like, I would not be happy with that at all. Like, I just get sent straight back in to get dressed or anything, even if I had like tights or something underneath. That was like quite a big thing. And so on mum's side, I'm presuming it's quite like even just as chilled.
Oh, we're all bonkers.
And that's so lovely that you've been able to find parts of yourself in that. And so did dad have any sort of cultural pressures himself from his side of the family as to what they expected of you?
I think he's had a few. Like to this day, my grandma asked me, well, she told me back in February, your sisters have married a white man, your brothers had a white girlfriend. Please, can you have a Pakistani boyfriend? I went, no, I don't think she likes it, but my dad was just like, it's her choice. It's her choice at the end of the day.
And so does Dad have any like older males in the family and brothers or anything?
Oh, there's so many of us I actually forget.
Really? Right.
Yeah,
because I often find sometimes the pressure can come from the elder males in the family as to having the expectation of men in our culture in general.
Dad is one of the eldest, actually, if I remember correctly. And he does have a brother, and his brother is completely different to how my dad is. But it's like if I go up to my cousin's house, though, I won't wear skirts or anything like that, like I mentioned earlier, just for the respect for them.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But my dad is just so okay with anything, as long as I'm okay. That's all he cares about.
I love that.
Because previously I did have a white boyfriend, and I did tell him about that. I was very nervous about that, actually.
Well, yeah.
I would
tell me about that.
I was very, very nervous to tell him, and I was like, come on, I can do it. I was telling Dad, no, never mind, Dad, okay, no, maybe another day. And when I told him, he went, as long as you're happy.
Really? So what has caused the apprehension of like telling him?
I don't know, it's just the thought, like, how Dad would react at the fact
I was going to say, what did you think his reaction would be?
I thought he would have just been, no, you're too young.
Oh, so do you think it was like more of an age aspect than anything else?
Yeah, because with the religion side of things, I mean, he did marry an English woman, so I wasn't too worried about that, if I'm being honest. And my elder sisters have white boyfriends, so I wasn't, it was more, would he think I'm still a kid or what? But he just looked up at me and went, as long as you're happy, and went back to doing his own thing. And I was like,
oh, wow.
Okay. But yeah.
This is like mind-blowing. It's so... It's such a mix of different things, but at the same time, I think it's really nice that you've not had as much of the fear-mongering sort of culture that I feel like other Pakistani women, or a mix of both, might have gone through. Like I was brought up around a lot of half Pakistani, half white, mixed families, and they were really pushed towards like more. I'm not going to say it's Islam. I'm going to say Pakistani culture, because I feel like it was definitely that. Now I've grown up, I can see it. I see them as both as completely separate things now. And there was some really heavy repercussions. There was one family that was very close to my mum, and I was brought up with, who were actually all killed in a house fire because of the cultural sort of pressures here. Which I don't know if you ever heard of the Riaz family. Yeah, so she was Aunt Kenise was like best friends with my mum. I was brought up with Adam because we were in the same school year, and my brother was brought up with Sarah because they were in the same school year. And you know, we spent a lot of our childhood, I think as we got older, we sort of separated off doing our own thing and life got busier, but we spent a lot of our childhood at each of us houses. And I think that was a huge turning point in terms of like, where is the honour in this, and defining what that actually means, and from a cultural aspect, looking at, you know, and I think that maybe that will be like a whole different sort of story and podcast to look at. But it was very interesting to see how the wheel's definitely been changing and turning since then. So what, sort of reflecting on that, what fear aspects do you feel like you might have had growing up? Because it sounds like it was more from other people who weren't actually your immediate household, which is really nice. It sounds like your actual household was a safe haven, which I think for a lot of people it's the opposite way, where home behind closed doors is sort of where the heaviness is, and being outside of that is where freedom sort of is. So what was it for you? Where did you feel like you could least be yourself?
Honestly, it was school. That's one of the reasons why I hated school growing up, is because it was just, like I mentioned earlier, it was just the amount of people who would tell me, you can't do this because Allah doesn't like it, and Allah will punish you, Allah will do this to you. It brought so much fear because at the time when you're a kid, you're quite naive to hearing stories, and I was questioning whether God were real or not. And after hearing those stories, I was like, oh my gosh, God's real. He's going to punish me because of who I am. And I would stay off school because of it.
Oh wow!
I would tell Mum I'm sick, I can't go to school, because I just hated going next to people who would tell me I'm going to hell and all this and that.
And was this quite a frequent thing then?
It was quite frequent.
Being told this, right? And what do you feel like? The people that said that to you, what do you feel like their sort of aspect of culture was then?
I feel like they just had a really, really strict upbringing because of how they were talking to me. It felt like they've been told that by an elder or something, and that's kind of what's stuck in their mind now, to the point where they're just like, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that, so they think, oh, we'll tell other people, and if they tell me, then yeah, it'll help her push into being Muslim, but they never did. And I just like some of them. I feel like some of them weren't really as strict, had a strict upbringing, but some of them, you can tell. You can really tell. And I don't know if you get what I mean by that. Like some of them wouldn't.
As in, you can tell if a household is much more sort of.
Yeah.
I think you can tell if a household is very Islamic and religious, because they'll practice religion, as in prayer is important. The 5 times a day of prayer is made a priority and stuff. And then I think you can tell if a household's more of a cultural thing, because there are things that don't exist in the religion that suddenly, like the colour of red, being associated with the devil, but it's also associated with love, and I think socially it was weird, because this was on my mind about how we associate colours with certain emotions and stuff, because it is weird, because if we hadn't ever been told that, it would be interesting to see what we actually thought colour would be. But and then I think you can tell the households where it's a little bit more open, because I think those are the people that are more than actually them individual selves. They're not a clone of something else, or they're not having to follow other people. They've just got their own path and leadership.
It's like, I've got one friend who is Muslim. I've known since primary. She was extremely supportive of everything that did. And years ago, we met up for the first time since we left primary, and we were asking how each other were, and we were so different of how we turned out to be, and we both loved it. Like, we were so supportive of each other. It's like, we're glad you did this.
So what were the similarities and differences?
Well, she were a lot more calmer. She was more into focusing on her education, whereas I want to do work. I wanted to find work straight away. But we also found similarity in the upbringing of school and how people would say those sort of things, like, oh, they've read associates. And we just laughed at it, because she was just one of them girls who stood by me every time, and she didn't care what religion you supported or were, didn't care what race you were. As long as you're an okay person, that's all she cared about. I still have her.
That's lovely. That I've always said that when it comes down to it, all that matters is that you are a good person with good intentions. Because, and I've always said this, what is the point of following a religion or following a culture if you're not a good person? And I think we've seen this time and time again where that's been proven right, is that people aren't necessarily great people, but they're imposing culture and religion, and it's not okay, because the influence isn't positive. It's not having a great effect on the rest of those people around them or the world. What is really important is that you are a good person, you have good intentions, and if you have those things, for me, they're like a core thing, and it doesn't matter about anything else. Do you know what I mean? And so, was this mainly at primary school or high school, would you say? Or did you feel like it followed through both?
I'd say it was mainly primary school.
Okay.
Because as it was secondary school, I tried to get along with everyone, but I was very shy, heads down. And like I said, at the time I was known as a weird kid because of my interests. And I'd try and make friends with people. And a lot of the Asian girls back then, they were nasty people, like really nasty for no reason. And they'd talk to me and everything like that. Like
in what way?
They'd talk to me like I'm their best friend, and then next minute they'll say something really sly in Urdu, because obviously I don't understand it. They say something really sly or really nasty about me in Urdu, and luckily I had my cousin who were at the same school as I were, and I was like,
able to translate.
I was like, can you translate for me? And they were saying just nasty stuff like, oh,
what were some of the things they would say about you?
Like, oh, I'm just this white girl, blah blah blah. Just mentioning a lot at the fact that I'm half white, and I don't get why that was such a massive thing. Like, oh, she's not true Muslim because she's white. First off, I'm not a Muslim anyways, so why would you assume that because I am half Pakistani, why would you assume I'm Muslim straight away? Like, it just really did my head in, and that's one thing that really affected my mental health growing up as well, was just, I felt so betrayed with people who I thought were friends, then it turned out they were just talking utter crap about me in a language that they knew I don't understand.
Right. Tell me more about that, what sort of continued to prod at you and affect your mental health during that time?
It was just like, I always struggled with anxiety when I was younger, and when I thought I made new friends, I do get really attached quite quick, because I found safety in a lot of people, so I was like, oh, can I hang out with you? And obviously when it's your first year in high school, it is scary.
It is, and you'll sort of, you want to cling on to anyone who would be your friends and just make you feel a little bit more comfortable, because it is brand new, isn't it, when you first start?
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to do. I was like, can I come with you? Can I sit with you, please? I don't want to be alone. I'm so scared. And half the time they're like, yeah, we'll sit together. And when it came lunchtime, they'll see me swerve away where I can see them, swerve away and start laughing and running away and hide from me. And I'm like, damn, okay.
And those people that you initially thought would be sort of a bit of a safety net for you, right?
Yeah. Luckily, I made a really good friend in secondary school that I'm still friends with today. So
that's
love her to bits.
Right. And so, as you're growing up, and because you change a lot when you're at high school, then from year 7 to sort of leaving, where would you say your mental health was during that time?
Well, if I'm being completely honest, I never had an amazing education, because around year 7ish I went to Pakistan just to see family for a bit, and I got really ill. I went back, they kicked me out for it because I wasn't there enough.
Okay.
Even though we told them, I'm ill. And then I went to another secondary school, and they were moving to Burnley for reconstruction, and they thought, no, she can't. I don't think it would be the best idea for her to go to Burnley for high school because of how bad my anxiety were. Just going from one small town to another small town in 2 minutes were bad enough as it is. Then they didn't feel comfortable with me going to Burnley.
Yeah, because it's quite a far travel, isn't it? Yeah.
So since then, my mum's been trying to educate me as well. But I also have ADHD, and at the time I wasn't.
Oh, I didn't know that. Right.
Yeah, and I wasn't diagnosed till I was 16. So up until I was 16, I had really hard time concentrating, and my mum found it very difficult to teach me because it was just something I wasn't interested in at all. Whereas reptiles, I had such a massive interest in.
Yeah, if it was anything to do with that had like your full focus.
So, now what I have to do to get myself into doing something is I have to associate it with reptiles to motivate myself. I'm like, okay, let's do this, and I'll teach myself facts about and that's kind of how I'm starting to teach myself. I'm reteaching myself maths as well.
Okay.
Because I don't know basic maths at all. And again, the only thing that's motivating me to do basic maths is if I associate it with reptiles.
Right. Okay.
So I'm trying to link it all. It's absolutely bizarre how my mind works, but it works for me.
But and anyone who's very passionate about a certain subject will totally be able to understand that. Like for me, I could not stop thinking about dance. I'd be sat in history, and I was one of these people. I always got prodded in class to answer questions, or I'd just be the name on the register. Maybe it's because it's an unusual name, where they'd be like, Rosie, what did you think? And I'm like, oh my God, I wasn't listening. Like, I was just in a fancy world of like dancing in my head. And so to get through my revision and stuff, I would just have to make sure I did some dancing first, get it out of the system. You know, so I totally understand that. As you said that then, I thought, God, I used to dance around my work all the time. It was the only way. That was the only agreement of me doing my work, was that I got to dance either before or after it or both. But, you know, you can't help what your passion is, and you're seriously driven by this. And, you know, I suppose in a way, it doesn't always make sense to do all the other stuff, does it? If it's very clear what your passion is in the first place, you know. I think sometimes it depends what you want to do. Sometimes you need those sort of stepping stones. Say, for example, you wanted to do a degree that would back you then doing some future work and, you know, reptiles, then you need sort of the stepping stones to get there. So I think it just really depends on what you want to do and your route getting there, doesn't it? And so as an adult now, where are we now in terms of like, so I'm just rewinding back, sorry, just to the mental health thing. What do you think caused like the actual anxiety? And for you, it sounds like personality wise, you say now as a child you was very bright and bubbly, and that it sounds like as a teen then you've sort of shut in yourself. Is that due to sort of the torment you had at school in terms of you being mixed race, or was that other things as well?
It was a little bit of everything,
Okay.
Like in primary school, parents' evening, the teachers would go, she's a lovely girl, she's just no confidence and she won't speak. And I just couldn't cope with it. I had zero confidence. Even when I started work last year, I had zero confidence. I couldn't contain eye contact with people at all, and that I'd get so tired really quickly. I used to shake a lot, and that's something I've always kind of done when I was younger.
Right.
And a lot of that is just because of how school worked for me.
Okay, so that's what I was. I know it's so hard to like. Sometimes when a podcast, not everybody knows where it's come from, and sometimes the realizations during the podcast and just like, oh my God, just realised
the realisation
this.
I've just hit then. I'm
really?
Like, yes, it's school,
So you felt like, oh my God, that's massive. Is that both primary school and high school's done that?
Yeah.
So you've not felt safe in those environments?
No, not at all.
What could have been done in those environments to make you feel like you could have been more of yourself?
I don't even know, you know. I'm not sure, because
about not being judged, would that have helped?
That would have helped, yeah. But you know, you would always get that thought in your back of your mind, am I being judged right now? So you never really know. Yeah,
even if people were to say it, was it something that was... So you were conscious of being mixed race and yourself, and you know, sometimes it's really hard because when we consciously think about it and we think other people might be thinking it, we sort of reflect that out to other people. We have this like radar of, you're judging me in this certain way if we feel like that as well. Because I always felt like I would be judged for not being very cultural, because I was very similar. I was a bit of a tomboy growing up, really. I just liked, I liked to wear what I was comfortable in. And it's weird because as I've gotten older now, I really appreciate wearing silver chemises on Eden and stuff. I find them so beautiful, and like, I just love the blinginess of it. And I've learned now it's on my own accord, and I've got to look at my culture for myself without anyone else from the outside. I've found such beautiful things about it. Like, I actually can cook a lot of Punjabi sweet dishes. I'm really crap at the savoury stuff. Like, if my mum watches this, she'll be like, "Oh, it tries to show you so many times." I sometimes I love being in the kitchen, sometimes I really don't. And I think because I'm so career driven, I just don't find myself cooking and stuff enough. But I do want to learn my mum's cooking, because nothing beats my mum's cooking. Like, I miss it so much. It's the worst thing about not living at my family home anymore, is I miss out on all of the cooking.
That's what I find funny, is because my mum, when she married my dad, she took time out of the day to learn.
Any
dishes and everything. So now we've got my dad who makes fish and chips with peas and everything. And my mum can just make a curry and javelin and everything.
Oh wow! So they're like
very
got the culture thing, almost like Freaky Friday.
Yeah,
swapped over there.
Yeah, like almost just kind of swapped.
I love that. And so for you, do you now you are an adult? Have you? And it very much sounds like you're coming into your own now. You know, and I think you spend a lot of your 20s doing this. I always say this to everyone who's in the 20s, is I feel like your 20s is sort of very turbulent, where, and all it is just finding more and more about yourself, but it just feels crazy at the time, you know, and eventually the dust settles a little bit. But do you feel like actually now you're getting to embrace like sort of the best bits of both cultures?
Yeah, because it's like when you're younger, you kind of see everything as scary, don't you? New things are very scary. But as you get older and you've kind of gotten used to different cultures and everything, you get more, oh, okay, this is this, and this is okay. It's like I'm very, very close with a lot of my cousins now. And I wouldn't have gone Pakistan this year if it weren't for them. If they didn't go, I wouldn't have gone.
Right, okay.
And even when we were in Pakistan, we just got really close all the time. We were playing badminton and everything.
Oh, lovely.
And what we'd do was we'd go up on the roof, get chairs out, and just talk really deep conversations.
I love
really
that.
Deep. And I loved it. Debates, like, I think that's one of my favourite moments.
So this is what sort of boggled me just a little bit, because I think this is where I've probably come from, like a bit of a different upbringing, where I've not taken the step forward actually to like even invite that in. I think for me it's just been like, oh, that's scary, okay, let's just leave it there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, sort of thing? And you know, I'm personally working through that at the moment. But when you go to Pakistan, like tell me a bit, like what is it like there?
Oh wow.
How are you sort of accepted there? Because I'm just really interested in seeing in terms of like being here in the UK, how you felt as opposed to actually being in Pakistan itself. I'm really interested to see what the development of our culture has been like in both places.
Yeah.
Because I was very surprised when we initially spoke before this podcast. But yeah, let's dive into that because I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, well, when I went to Pakistan before, in February, I actually had red hair, that split dye, black on one side, red on the other. And before I went, my mum was like, oh, do you want to take your piercings? Can you take your piercings out? Because obviously grandma, and I went, absolutely no, I'm not doing that. Which when you are, I went, no, I'm not doing that.
How old are you at this point?
I was 18.
Oh, right,
It was only this year, yeah.
So is that the first time you've gone?
No, I've been
You have been
loads
before?
of times,
Okay.
yeah. And that was another thing, like my cousins were like, oh, you're going to leave your piercings in, this, that and the other. Well, yeah, absolutely, I'm not changing myself, because I've just gotten at that point where I'm sick of trying to change who I am to fit into other people's little clique. I'm not doing that anymore, I'm being who I am. And I also have tattoos, so they were like, what are you going to do? You're like,
yeah, you won't be able to see a lot of them though. But I did notice the one on your list.
There was one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I thought it was a fresh one.
Oh, I got one on my chest, and that's the only one I had at the time. And they're like, what are you going to do with like tattoos? I went, I'll cover it with a scarf or whatever. And I just remember the day before, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I've got tattoos on there, putting concealer on.
Oh, wow, okay.
I was trying to see if it would work, but then after a bit, I was like, nah, so I'll leave it, I'm not bothered.
Is this at a point where you were like, okay, the piercings and tattoos together might be pushing it a little far?
The tattoos, once I realised about tattoos, I was like, yeah, that will be pushing it a lot.
Right, okay.
But with some of my closest cousins, like, they already know I've got them, so they're not as bothered. But when it comes to some of my aunts, uncles, and my grandma, as soon as they walked into the house in Pakistan, that's it, I was like, trying to make sure my scarf was definitely covering it. My grandma would freak out if she saw it, that's all.
Yeah, and I think all else. I mean, my grandma was very religious, and definitely, if she was here, I would have a lot to say. I would definitely have to cover them. But whereas my granddad, even though he's quite open, I think would still be a bit bat tires.
Yeah, see, my dad, he's like, he's not a fan of foam, but like he goes, ooh, as if you got that. But he's not massive. Like, you're absolutely never getting that. Because when I told him I was getting that one done, he was like, no, you're not. I went, yeah, I am. And he went, fine, okay, whatever.
Because you were going to do it anyway.
It's not the point. He's just like,
forgetting that you're a bit of a rebel now.
Yeah. And now he's just like completely gave up telling me I can't get tattoos. He's just like,
it makes you happy.
Yeah. You're just like, I don't like them. I was like, oh well, that's your opinion. This is mine. I love them.
Yeah.
And then when I did get to Pakistan and I first saw my grandma, I was so scared about this one.
Right.
Because this one was my biggest issue. And she saw it and she went, you should have gotten your tongue pierced too, so you could have kept your mouth shut. I was like, okay, fine.
Oh,
my grandma is
hey, that's
sassy.
A pretty cool that was a good comeback, that, for a grandma.
My grandma is sassy.
Yeah, she sounds it.
But then she looked at my hair, felt it, and went, I had red hair like yours.
Oh, really?
I was like, wow, really?
But I suppose a lot of people dye their hair with henna.
Yeah.
Because my dad's mum, we've always called them Beige, and because we've had so many Beiges, we've like Beige A and Beige B.
Why I got Big Papa.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so funny. So Beige B is the one with like the bright orange hair. Yeah. She's got white hair, but she just insists on dyeing it with henna, so it's bright orange.
Yeah, so, and then my eldest Papa, Big Papa, as we call her, she saw my septum, saw all of these on my ears, and she went, when I was younger, we had girls who would wear this kind of jewellery. And I was like, really? Are you serious? And she went, yeah, I'm being serious. Because when I first got this done, this was in 2021 when I got my septum done, I used to hide it from like them lot. I took it under and everything, and I didn't have as many piercings as I did now. So that were okay. So when I had this one in, obviously I can't tuck it in now, it's massive. She just looked at it and went, I think it's beautiful, I like it. A lot of girls back then had these kind of jewellery, and I was like,
you know, I find that mind-blowing. So I'm going to ask you something about that, and tell me what you think. Has the Pakistani culture sort of developed and changed in Pakistan, but not changed here in the UK?
It's changed a lot, especially in the bigger cities.
Yeah.
There's girls wearing very, very modern clothing, not wearing any headscarves or hijabs or anything like that. They're just being who they are. They're walking, they're loud, and they're not worried about going out without a man next to them or the husband's next to them. They're just free. And it was really nice to see that.
Do you like women work there? I've never been before, so I can only go off what I've been told and what I think my concept of there is. Yeah.
There are women that work, like where we are. We're in the middle of nowhere in a small village, and the women who work here, they help us clean the house because we've got, well, my grandma's house is quite big, and my grandma's around 80 to 90 years old, so obviously she can't do it on her own. She helps her cook and everything. So yeah, women do work there. Just doing little jobs here and there.
Okay.
But I think in the bigger cities, I think they do have more bigger jobs there.
Okay.
I'm not completely sure because, like I said, I live in the village bit, so I'm not very...
Yeah. Which, from my perspective, the village and the city, not very different from what it's like here, being in a small town to a big city. There obviously is more of a broader aspect of thinking, in my opinion, in a city than there is in a small town, because it can't be helped. I think when you're in a small town, you're around the same people. It builds like a particular mentality that only is contained in that town. Would you say that's the same with village and cities there? Do you see a difference between the both?
I do see a difference, yeah. Like our village, it's quite stuck in its old ways. Whilst if you look at the bigger cities, it's like, whoa, it's massive. These buildings, beautiful buildings, and it sounds strange, English toilets.
Right. Like, wow. It's not just a hole in the floor.
So yeah, I would say there is a massive difference in it. And also with the village, when it comes to women, and they can get education out there, but a lot of them are still getting told they need to get married and everything else, whilst in the bigger cities, I don't think that happens just as much as it does in smaller villages. If you get me, so that's what I think of it anyways, that's my opinion.
How do you find Pakistani culture here in the UK?
Do you know what? I think it's a bit more stricter than it is when you're actually in Pakistan. It sounds so strange, but it's crazy, because when I was in Pakistan, I was just so much more at ease when I were actually in England.
That is mind-boggling for me. I've always had the impression that it would be sort of a bit more cultural and stricter there.
Like, it is, don't get me wrong, it is a little bit more dangerous, as at night you can't really go on the rooftops or anything. Just protection.
Yeah, of course. I think a lot of places are like that.
But you get it everywhere, don't you? But personally, I think a lot of people over in Pakistan, they're just a lot more, how do I explain it? They're nothing like they are here, if you get me, like, especially with the elders.
Yeah. For me, the way I've always seen it is, once you come out of that place is continue to move and develop, which is really nice to know.
Yeah.
But once you've come out of that place, there's been no continuation of anything developing here, unless individuals have actually made that choice themselves collectively. There hasn't been a huge shift in development here, because we're not in that same environment and place anymore, and so we've not been able to develop with Pakistan, because we're not in that place anymore. And so I feel like, in a sort of way, everyone's been left, not astray a little bit, but left to make their own decisions and choices. And I think some people have decided, well, okay, I don't agree with these aspects of this culture. Here are the choices I'm going to make. And some people have gone, well, this is all I know. And feel comfortable with that, and maybe have a little bit of a fear of coming out of that as well. Not speaking for everyone, I'm just talking in some cases. And so it just feels like there's a huge mix, really. If you look at it across the world, we've probably all got our own ways and subcultures and stuff within that, which is very confusing.
It is, but it's just something I feel like this is something needs to be talking about, because there are a lot of other mixed race people, other Asian ladies who understand, like, and they feel quite nervous to reach out or talk about it. And this is something I've always wanted to do when I was younger. I've always wanted to speak about how it was for me bringing up, because I know what it's like to feel lonely in the world. I've only met one other mixed race person, except for my family. And as soon as I met her, I clicked with her instantly. I was like, yeah, someone
just understood each other.
And this is just like why I wanted to be on this podcast today. I wanted other people to know they're not alone. And we're all here for each other.
And so if you were looking back at you as a child now, as an adult, or there was another mixed race of the same ethnicity that you are growing up now, what's the best thing that you could advise them that would help them with what you went through and experienced? So if you was to have a child now that was mixed race,
I'd just tell them, be yourself. You should never feel ashamed of who you are, and your family should understand, from both sides of the family, should understand your difference between a certain culture, and it's going to be okay. No, it's scary, but you need to be yourself, otherwise you will feel trapped for so many years, and you'll feel silenced, which is something I don't want for anyone at all.
You know, and I think that I just got goosebumps because I think that can go for the world. It's like, everyone was brought here to be themselves. We weren't brought here to be like other people, because then what's the point of being here? I thought we always get to the point, don't we? And so what's the point of being here if we're going to be like everybody else? We're not serving the purpose that we were brought here to be. Everyone was made individually for a reason. And And I think that is such amazing advice. And I feel like that's the core advice you could ever be told, is never be afraid to be yourself.
Yeah.
Do you think you would be who you are now, though, if you hadn't gone through all of that?
No, I feel like in a way I'm grateful. I'm grateful for having that upbringing, because now I'm realising who I am and what I want to be with. And if I'm being perfectly honest, if all them like back in school didn't bully me for being strange, I wouldn't have been so interested in doing what I do now. I own a little business and everything, selling reptile necklaces and all sorts.
Oh, really? What's that called?
Ronnie's Reptiles.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to pop that in and then everyone can have a look at it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's ace.
Yeah.
Sometimes the shadows that we go through, I feel like sometimes they're the parts that really bring out you finding who you are.
Yeah, it's like you need a push.
Yeah.
Every now and then, just to get you going.
Yeah. And I think, tell me if you agree with this or not, that, like you were saying, it can feel so scary, especially when you're going through like fear and feeling anxiety, knowing that that's just part of like you finding yourself and finding courage and pushing through that, and knowing it'll be okay in the end, because I don't think you can find that sort of courage and strength if you don't face those shadows first. Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to add to today? I know you said there was, you've always wanted to speak about this. Is there anything we've not spoken about where you're like, I really want to...
I've said everything I've ever wanted to say.
That's so nice.
I swear I've been practicing this since I was little.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's amazing. That, like, makes my heart full. Going forward now, like, obviously you've come out of where you were mentally now. Do you feel like you fully come out of there? Is it a progress?
It's still a work in progress, but I know I'm going to get there, because I'm surrounded with so many people who love and support me, and that's what's helping me get through it.
That's so nice.
Yeah, especially with work. I'd never thought I would have been able to work,
Yeah. So we're going to give a Select a shout out. Yeah. I was supposed to wear my gilet from there.
Oh,
and give it a little prom. I'm going to get it. One sec. Clara will love me for this. But yeah, guys, head to Select. So I've got this fleecy gilet, because I'm a bit done with the puffer gilets now. Ooh, they've gone out of style, and it's so warm. I was supposed to wear this for the podcast so I won't get cold, but I got too into it. But yeah, from Select. But I know being in that work environment has really helped, and I think you've been sent the angels that you needed to.
Literally, I couldn't have done it without my manager and the other co-workers. I couldn't have done it without them. They were just... I love them to bits. I see them as family.
Oh, it's so lovely that.
Yeah.
And so going forward now, like, I always ask this to people, and some people hate it when I ask and go, I don't think about stuff like that, like, leave me alone. And some people know exactly what they want to say. And both is fine, just so you know. 5 years' time, where would you see yourself?
Hopefully educating people about reptiles and having a bit more of a bigger business when it comes to it. That is what I want to do.
I love that. That's so ace. And so it's a matter about everything else, because you've just like, that's my passion. That's what I'm going to do. I absolutely love that. But was there any repercussions? Because I know you were saying you weren't white enough for the white people. You weren't Pakistani enough for Pakistani people. Were there any repercussions from the other side for you?
I did get it from white people as well. I was very sensitive when I was 14. I was a very, very sensitive person. And one of my friends, I still have him as a friend now, he's changed a lot from how he were now.
Yeah.
He got pork sausages and started throwing them at me and calling me all sorts. And at the time, it hurt me.
Is this at high school?
Around the time I was 14,
Yeah.
And it hurt a lot.
What was it about it that it hurt you?
It was just the fact, like, I don't know, he was just my friend, and then, but all he sees is like, oh, you're Pakistani, curry muncher, this, that, and the other. And that's what hurt me a lot.
So he was trying to interrogate that side of you?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
But then I told him to go away. And I started beating him up.
Yeah.
But then since then, he's apologised for everything he's done. And honestly, me and him are good mates now.
Yeah.
I don't see it personal anymore.
Yeah.
And I kind of laugh about it now because I feel like if you don't laugh about it, you're just going to be stuck. And there is a difference with it because with my friends, they know I'm okay with certain jokes. But when it's just a random stranger telling me this, that, and the other, then that's when I will get really mad.
Okay.
So
for me, I'm just saying this as someone who's now 35. God, I'm like twice your age. I spent a lot of my 20s, and especially at your age at college, letting people do stuff like that to me. Yeah. So like, and as I realised what it actually were, I decided to sort of remove those people from my life because I'd not seen at the time what it actually were. I knew it made me feel uncomfortable, but I couldn't put my finger on what it were. And I used to get a lot of people who I would have considered friends at the time who would think it was funny to tell me that I smelled like curry.
Literally,
or that I liked curry. And now at the time, I used to respond by laughing. I used to go, oh, okay, and think, that's okay because I know you. But if a stranger would say it to me,
it's a different story, yeah.
But then as I got older, I realised that I wasn't actually okay with it and that it made me go inwards a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise how not okay it were until I sort of got into my late 20s and 30s, and I realised that because I was making it okay by responding in that way, that they would feel like it's okay to continue doing that. And so like I decided to cut those people off and not make it okay, because I've also realised I've actually had a couple of remarks, not personally about me, but things said in class, and not just to do with like Pakistani culture, but to do with like other things like disabilities and stuff, which is obviously another sensitive subject for me, but you know, rightly so. And people have said things in class and I've just gone, rewind, think about that, what you've just said, because if I was to just bypass it and be okay with it, that will continue. And I think sometimes we have to stop people in the tracks, even if it's a bit uncomfortable, and go, it's not okay that.
Yeah.
You know.
Like, with my closest friends, they know I do joke about it. And a lot of times it is me who is the one joking. But they also know that if they overstep that boundary of jokes, they know I will say something to them. And then they will not say anything about it. And that's what I kind of love about them, is that we can joke about certain topics, but we also know when to stop before it gets too much. Like yesterday, did you see on Hyben Chat?
No, but I mean, Hyben Chat's just turned into like news rounds. I don't know what's going on with it at the moment, but
well, there was like,
honestly, it's highly entertaining. Check it out and join it if you want to.
There was a post from an anonymous guy, so he's a keyboard warrior, like going, "What's with the angry Muslim mob?"
Angry Muslim mob?
Yeah.
Why?
Yesterday was the birth of Prophet Muhammad, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah,
so they did a little parade about it, but for some reason the guy thought it was just a bunch of angry Muslims.
So didn't understand actually what the parade was about.
Yeah, so that's when I was like, right, okay, let me educate you, blah, blah, blah. And he was
or
still...
did you go in?
Usually I just ignore it. I'm like, oh, there's no point entertaining people like that. But he kept going on about how they were angry. I went, what makes you think they're angry? Stop assuming and start learning that this is a very good day for them.
Yeah.
And I sent it to my friends, and they knew I was being serious about this, so they all chimed in like, yeah, you need to start learning, stop being a bigot. Just because you hear someone speak in a different language, which they didn't all, they also spoke in English and made banners in English saying why we're doing this. They were just like, stop being bigots. Yourself.
Don't be ignorant to it. You're totally right there. Educate yourself.
Literally.
You can't just depict from things all the things that make you feel uncomfortable. Like, at least take the time to understand it.
I was just like, why did you go up to them? And did they tell you they were angry, or are you just assuming here? Because on those pictures of the guys in the parade, they're happy.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
do you feel like in the last I praise Accrington for the steps it's taken in moving forward. From what this town was like growing up to what it is now, there are things that have developed and changed in a positive way. Like, I can't help but sense sometimes our community vibe shocks me. It is more together sometimes than a city can be. But then there's other times, and in particular in the last year, where I can't help but feel like if there's a chance to be racist or prejudiced, the amount of people that will jump on it is crazy. At the same time, I think there's a really great amount of people in our community who will go, no, like, stop that, we're not doing that anymore. But I can't help but feel like, especially what happened in Southport, and the fact that it was really emphasised that the guy was coloured, and you know, I feel like it brought a lot of things to surface where people decided to behave a certain way and have opinions, and like you said, you know, a bit of like a bigot attitude. It feels like it's headed that way a little bit recently.
Yeah, it's like, it's scary for a lot of Asian families, especially when all that protesting were happening.
Yeah.
Because I was supposed to work actually on the day that apparently the EDL was protesting. And my manager rang up and she went, I'm a bit worried for you.
Yeah, we happen to be closed as well, but so, can't lie that as much I tried to ignore it, that I had a bit of apprehension in there.
Yeah, so she went, if you want to go home and take the day off tomorrow, that's fine. So I went, do you know what, yeah, I'll do it. I want to be more family. So it's just, I think people forget that we're also scared too.
And and that you can't tarnish us all with the same brush. We're not the same people. Like, from what we've talked about from cultural aspects now, from religious aspects, like, there are so many different people within that umbrella that you can't say one Pakistani is the same as another Pakistani. It's not the case. Like, that person could have a completely different upbringing. It's definitely to do with your own choices and mindset as well. Like, it's almost like there's an impression that because we're all born Pakistani, we're all brought up a certain way. Yeah, there are certain cultural and religious aspects, but at the end of the day, it's down to that person to make those decisions, and what that individual's decisions are. If they're bad decisions that affect humanity, that doesn't mean that all Pakistanis are the same, because we're not.
Literally, we're not. We're all different. And that's completely what a lot of people forget. They all think we're the same.
That's it.
But we're really not.
And there's Pakistanis out there who really aren't for stuff like that, who were doing work out there to actually stop things like that. Because as Pakistanis, it is annoying when somebody does something like that. You feel like you've got to go inwards because everyone's going to look at you like you're like that, and it shouldn't feel like that, you know, because it's not the same with all ethnicities and castes. In particular, I think when you're coloured, if something happens within that, you are immediately judged quicker because you are coloured.
Yeah, it's like we should be proud of who we are, not ashamed.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. For growing up, I was quite ashamed of who I were. And I kept denying I was Pakistani. I was like, no, I'm not, I'm just white. But as I got older, I was like, yeah, I'm Pakistani. This is who I am, and I'm embracing it. Yeah. Because that's a part of me.
I'm going to high five you for that. No, because I generally don't think I would be who I am today if I wasn't Pakistani. And I'm also like, spent a lot of time thinking I had to hide it because I wouldn't be accepted by certain communities. But you know what? I fully, truly embrace being Pakistani, and there's so much about my culture that I love, but I also love that I get to enjoy the British culture as well. And people don't like that, shove it.
It's tough.
That's our upbringing, and that's who we are. Do you know what I mean? Just the same as we would not judge and try and stop anyone else from being who they are.
It's like, if you don't like it, there's the door. Welcome to leave.
That's it. Yeah, but I've said that more than I did when I was being brought up, is that I love the fact that I'm Pakistani.
Yeah,
I really do. I really don't think I would be able to be individual and lead the path that I have led if I was anything else.
That's literally it. Yeah. So I always thought, you know, like when you're like, I'm not Pakistani. I love being Pakistani.
Yeah.
Because
there used to be a time if I told people I was Pakistani, I used to go, oh, I'm Pakistani actually, because I thought, one, they probably presumed I'm not. I get that a lot, where people don't think I am because of my accent and the way I dress. Yeah, I've actually been told I sound white on the phone.
Do you know what?
Do you know what?
I can hear it.
I've actually been told that twice by 2 different people. But I actually found it offensive. I was like, but why would you presume that I would have a Pakistani accent or a twang to my accent because I'm Pakistani?
Yeah, literally.
Like, my mum's got a very like strong accent. Mine's particularly strong in my family, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's a lot stronger than anyone else in my family for some reason. But you know, you don't want to. And then another one would be like, oh, if I told them I'm Pakistani, they're going to think I'm less than what I am. And that's awful to like grow up feeling like that. Whereas now I'm like, yeah, I'm Pakistani. Yeah, and I bloody love it as well. Literally. And you know, it's part of me. It can't be helped. And I'm embracing it. Do you know what I mean?
One thing about me where if I told someone I was Pakistani, I'd be like, oh, you don't look it because you're so white.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm mixed race. So, but I just, when you say you were Pakistani, I thought you would just be more brown. You know,
but then there's a definite connotation of what Pakistanis look like.
Literally.
Like we've definitely, to say there's so many sub-Asian cultures and places.
Yeah.
For some reason, we all get told we're supposed to look a particular way.
Yeah. But
all white people don't look the same.
Yeah.
And there's many across the world that all are different ethnicities, different religions, but the colour is white. It doesn't mean we all look the same. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because 3 of my siblings, they're really, really tanned, whilst one of my siblings, she's pure white, and everyone just thinks she's a white girl. So when she tells people I'm Pakistani, not a lot of people believe her.
Yeah.
So she has to pull out photos and everything like, yeah, this is my dad. I'm like, are you serious?
It's crazy, isn't it? I think we're definitely at an age now where you can't
what's crazy
really judge that.
Yeah, what's crazy is though she can understand Urdu and she used to learn it and she can speak it.
Yeah.
So she's really not who you think she is in a way.
Yeah. But this is people judging from the outside, isn't it? And I think sometimes I really enjoy the fact that no one can put me in the box.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got pictures of me and my sister in Asian dresses for a wedding and everything, and we even got told once, oh, you can tell they're all adopted. And my sister went, actually, we're mixed race, not everyone's going to be the same colour.
Yeah.
And started going off, and I was like, yes, that's what I love.
That's it. That's so great. And it's so great that you've got those people around you helping break those stereotypes down, because I think that's what it comes down to in the end, isn't it? Is that we can't help but, and we all do it to a level, maybe we do it less now because we've been judged ourselves, but you know, you do try and put people in a box when you immediately see them, because you just think, oh, this and this, you know, and people have got to go past that and speak to those people before making those judgments. So it'll broaden your aspects, because it won't be always what you think it is. Sometimes it is. You know, that's why we have those stereotypes in the first place, but sometimes it can be so different to what you think, and just opening and understanding people more. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been ace. Well done. Oh, you're so warm.
Am I?
I'm literally feeling my hands. Oh, actually, you're quite cool.
It's always
freezing.
My hands.
Yeah, same with my toes.
Yes.
My